Hey guys, Eric Knight here. Today is December 26, 2012. I finally got a chance to read this article about Barack Obama being Time Magazine's 2012 Person of the Year. Second time he's made that list. And I wanted to shed my perspective on this. Not a total surprise. If you look at the history of this list, they've had a lot of interesting figures and names on there. Some real difference makers throughout our history, and also some people that pretty notable for very negative reasons as well. But it wasn't a total surprise. A lot of the presidents have been on this list once, if not twice. So this article pretty much centers around the re-election of Barack Obama and what it means to him, and maybe more or less where this is going to take us in the future and how he got elected in general, or re-elected. One thing to start out with the article, that he had said that this was much better than it was the first time. To quote him directly, this one's more satisfying than 2008, he said. It wasn't just about what I was going to do as president, it's about what I've done. Now, I would ask people to ask yourself, what really has Barack Obama done? What positive stuff has he done for this country? If you look at the shape that our economy's in today, most of the positive gains that we've seen are completely artificial. It's just these generic artificial fixes that we've used over the last 4 years with the quantitative easing, stimulus, that have put a band-aid on, a huge gash, and we haven't stopped the bleeding. And things are going to get a lot worse here in the near future. If you just look at the shape of our economy, the size of our national debt, these artificially low interest rates that we have, if you look at all the wars that we're engaged in, if you look at how much he's done to bypass the Constitution, all the executive orders, there's a lot of really bad stuff. I'm not saying that he hasn't done anything positive for people, but America is hurting. And a lot of what we have seen that he would say is maybe positive has been artificial. We're bypassing the medication that tastes really bad right now, and we're not addressing the issues, which are going to be much more devastating here in the near future. They also talked about how he broke down and cried twice in public after his re-election. I remember seeing one of these videos, and the guy actually really did break down and cry, and then they said he did it again right after the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting. Now, one thing I would advise people to do, go look at these two videos. Decide for yourself. If you look at the way that he actually cried after he was reelected in front of his staff and the people that helped his campaign, I mean, the guy really broke down. He had tears streaming down his face. I mean, he was pretty emotional. You can tell the guy, he was really crying. If you look at the Sandy Hook incident, when he was addressing the White House briefing room, he's wiping away these fake tears. There's no tears. He wasn't crying. This was more or less used to advance a political agenda forward with gun control, which we're going to see here in the very near future. The next piece that I wanted to talk about was they were touching on how the younger, more diverse America had turned out at the polls to re-elect Barack Obama, and I would agree with that. I think that a lot of these people are not very bright. I hate to say it that way. How the guy is reelectable based on what he has done as somebody who does follow politics is incomprehensible. I don't get it. I think the biggest concern should not so much be him as much as this portion of the public that wanted him back in so bad. This mass of people. One positive thing that I do see out of this, though, is I think 14 million people less showed up to the polls this last year than they did back in 2008. So to me, that's a positive sign that people in this country are waking up to face reality and looking past this right-left paradigm. Me personally, again, I didn't vote for Mitt Romney. I probably originally would have had. And I think the reasons why I didn't is when I dove a little bit deeper, when I looked past, my filters and to really try to see who these people were, your opinions really start to change. There's a lot of core principles such as auditing the Fed, maybe ending the Fed, and even this NDAA. Both Barack Obama and Mitt Romney are big supporters of that. And I think Mitt Romney missed out on a lot of the vote, especially from, say, these libertarians or people in the middle, because he's trying to out-Democrat these Democrats. So I found that to be pretty interesting. But I don't want to necessarily align myself with one group of people. I would say I'm more of a libertarian, somewhere between there and a conservative. But I have flexible thinking. I'm not just rigid in one, Democrat, Republican ideology. Again, I think a lot of people rationalize or justify anything that party does to fit in with that party. And I think that's one of the biggest problems we have with this whole two-party system. So, another thing that I found very interesting on top of that was they had set aside a bunch of these people, at least the Obama campaign did, to understand, to find these trigger words to see what is it about Obama that sets him apart. And the number one thing they came up with was they trust Obama. Now, should you trust the guy? I would have thought back in 2008, 2009, maybe I would have trusted him. I don't know much about him. I still don't know much about him. There's a lot of things in this guy's past that are sealed up that we just don't know about. Even if you look back to this whole birther issue, number one, it's crazy how you were just completely demonized if you even questioned the birth certificate. You're labeled a birther. But if you look at the Constitution, you have to be a natural-born U.S. citizen to run for President of the United States. Well, 3 years later or so, to the presidency, he releases another faulty birth certificate at a White House press dinner. And surprisingly, an hour after that, bin Laden's dead, and you can't say that's some sort of a distraction. Well, all that aside, I think the way Peter Schiff actually put it the best here in a video he did probably a couple months ago. He had talked about how we spent $8 billion on all these campaigns, be it for Mitt Romney and Barack Obama combined, and you have the Senate and the Congress races. $8 billion on all these advertisements and campaigning. And what do we have to show for it? We have the same president. We have basically the same Senate. Maybe they picked up a couple seats, not enough to make a difference. And we have basically the same House. Nothing really changed, and we spent $8 billion on all this campaigning. And who do they really target? Who are the people that are swayed the most in these advertisements? And I think the real answer is, and he summarizes it the best, it's the idiots. It's those people that really have no principles, that don't have the initiative to go and look and see for themselves, number one, what their values are, and number two, the values of the candidates. Who do you align with the most? I mean, you can take maybe 2 minutes of your day to do a Google search. Well, yeah, I agree with this. I'm pro-life, I'm pro-choice, whatever. People don't do that. They're easily manipulated and swayed by these persuasive ads they see on TV. And his main point was whoever can come up with the most clever campaign to win the idiot vote, that's going to be the next president of the United States. And obviously, and I would agree with this conclusion just based off what happened in this last election, that he's right. The idiots reelected Barack Obama, and that should say something about society today and in general. People they don't pay attention to the issues at all. They don't really know anything about politics. Yet these people are making decisions on a daily basis and passing legislation that restricts our freedom and changes our lives forever. So I think it is important, but I think there's also a lot of distractions. One of the last things I wanted to touch on in this article, I'll just read it here. Obama says he long ago decided that he should not compare himself to Lincoln, but he nonetheless begins his second term with a better sense of what is possible in his job as well as what is not, something Lincoln struggled with as well. And he had said this after he had watched the Lincoln movie that Steven Spielberg made. I guess Lincoln's Obama's favorite president. And I think he's right not to compare himself to Lincoln, because Lincoln actually united the country. He saved the Union. Barack Obama's done more to divide this nation than anybody else I can think of. I don't think our country's necessarily been this divided since the Civil War. And I think that's what they want. I think there is a bigger agenda at play here, and I think some things are going to come down the pipeline here in the near future. I think 2013, to kick things off, is going to be a pretty interesting year. They talked about how his fifth year as president is kind of that sweet spot between having all that influence and turning into a lame duck president, waiting for the new one to come in. I wouldn't also rule out that this guy is incapable of receiving a third term. Even if you look at FDR getting 4 terms, he only served 12 years as president, but he had 4 terms as a wartime president. And if you look at everything that's unfolding over in the Middle East, the way that we're arming the Syrian rebels and everything that's kind of unfolding, it looks like we're heading into another world war, which is a huge concern. And I think if we do have another huge war, it could open that door for keeping him in office 2017 and beyond. So maybe that's an extreme viewpoint, but my take on this article, it's not surprising they did this. Again, they've done it with a lot of other presidents. Maybe no matter how much good or how much bad they've actually done. My personal opinion, the guy has done a completely horrible job. He's destroying America. No better than George Bush did. George Bush has done a lot to destroy this country, and Obama's just a continuation of Bush. And there was one other thing he had said, that Obama thinks best when he puts his thoughts down on paper. He likes to write, and that's how he thinks. And I would love to read those diaries. I still want to know what is his real clear agenda. If you look at all the promises that the guy broke since his 2008 campaign and everything that's advancing forward and the problems that we face, I can't help but think all this is by design. These guys aren't stupid. I think they're actually pretty brilliant, smart people. But what's the real clear agenda here? What America does he have visioned? Or the powers that be, I would say. So that's my take on the article. I think it's kind of silly. I think there's probably other people that were much more worthy of this honor, but I guess I don't have control over that. I didn't vote for it. So that's my opinion. Thanks for tuning in. This is The Knight Show. We'll have much more to talk about later on tomorrow.